Does Kingdom Hearts even need an introduction on my channel? I'm sure it's no secret that I've played and experienced my fair share of Kingdom Hearts, but for those who are newer and may not know, for a couple of years up until recently, I was a pretty dedicated Kingdom Hearts lore channel, primarily consisting of analyzing the lore of the series and theorizing pretty much anything that hasn't been answered officially yet. However, of course, I did discover about myself that I was ready to move on past that phase of my channel. It was a ton of fun and I got to meet so many new people and so many of you guys because of it. And Kingdom Hearts will always be something really important to me, and I'll continue keeping up with the series. However, it just won't be the main thing I upload anymore. I may do a discussion or theory every now and then, but my primary content will be the type of videos you've been seeing from me now, such as this one you're watching right now. Okay, so we know I have a strong relationship with this series, but I think the only way I can format these kinds of videos with a series like this is I'd have to cover how I feel about this series in one singular video. So strap yourselves in, everyone, and get your darkness counters ready because we're diving right in. Now, Kingdom Hearts being the series that it is, it's impossible in my style of writing to really give my thoughts on, say, Dream Drop Distance solely, for example, as because it's just one later part of this series and its story heavily relies on me talking about the story of another game and how it ties them together. And because of this, I can't say Kingdom Hearts is for the faint of heart. It will require dedication fully to dive into Tetsuya Nomura's brain, as it can be complex as rocket science at times if you're not paying 100% attention to everything said in cutscenes. Facial expressions of characters, body language, and honestly even the game's optional content are all very important for the story. However, because I'm just that kind of loser, this has always been right up my alley. Kingdom Hearts is the story of not just one individual like it may seem on the outside, but it's really about numerous characters and their stories of how their lives progressed and transformed into what we see now. What starts off as an airheaded island boy who's never really done anything beyond helping build a raft, to a man who's traveled far and wide, saving every planet in his path. For Sora, of course, you can make the argument that, in a way, he's kind of like Goku from Dragon Ball. That even though he's changed physically, he looks older, sounds older, and is overall just older. The person he is on the inside, though, has never actually changed. Regardless of everything Sora's been through, nothing has changed who he is fundamentally as a person. And to some, that may be a letdown, but I don't know, I always take consistent character traits over character regression in a story any day. Now, as I said, Kingdom Hearts is a series where it's vital to play every game to be able to get the full story and understand the plot of the game that releases afterwards. So with that knowledge, I'll be spoiling some parts of the story for this series and going into some people's character arcs, so let that be known. So with that, let me fanboy about Riku for a moment. Man, I'm sorry for the DBZ comparisons, but Riku honestly has a Vegeta type character arc. Of course, with less blowing up planets, but Riku is Sora's best friend and they grew up together, but he also counts for the antagonist for the first Kingdom Hearts game. And since then, and realizing, hey, becoming a villain because one of my friends made more friends is pretty stupid, he's worked day in and day out trying to not only make it up to the people he feels he failed, but to also make it up to himself and become the man he knows he was meant to be, the man he dreams to be, a man that can be relied on in a pinch, to be a shoulder to lean on, and an inspiration of strength for those in his life. Though these things don't mean that it was an easy path for him, Riku failed many times and resorted to numerous self-sacrificing actions to accomplish his goals. And honestly, some of those last resort decisions of his even made his path to recovery take longer. But honestly, I think that's where Riku's true character really shines. Riku knows a lot of his rash decisions, such as giving into the darkness in order to win against Roxas at the end of 358 Days Over 2, is a horrible idea. His whole arc in the game before this, Chain of Memories, ended with him walking the middle ground on his path to redemption. But giving into it now for this one fight goes against everything he was working on for this last year. But that just goes to show, once again, that's just who Riku is. He's willing to even throw himself into a possibly unchangeable oblivion where he'd have to masquerade as the man who ruined his life for the rest of his life, all to help his dear friend. In the end, a lot of time passes, and we come to the time period of Dream Drop Distance, said by young Xehanort himself that he's not even sure how Riku did it, but Riku managed to learn how to utilize his power over darkness to fight for the light. And whenever I hear this line, I always just get so nostalgic and emotional. Riku had turned from my least favorite character in the series back in KH1 to be my #1 favorite by far. And he had to work hard to get to that point. He continuously fought for what he believed in, but also willing to take any risk necessary to accomplish being there for his friends and atoning for his mistakes. This isn't the same boy anymore who just wanted to do anything to leave his home island. This is a man, a warrior who's proved himself battle after battle to be an inspiration to everyone around him. It's hard not to gaze upon Riku and not be proud of his accomplishments. I know it's easy to dismiss his actions since he's not the protagonist, and a lot of his actions can get buried underneath the hype moment from another character shortly afterwards, but I just wanted to take the time to say why I appreciate Riku as a character. But with that, let's talk about why everyone loves this series so much. As I kind of touched on before, the Kingdom Hearts series is chock full of lore, not even exactly referring to the story itself. Of course, both are extremely prevalent, but with any amount of lore, the stories themselves reinforce them, which of course is why I find it difficult to talk about my thoughts on any particular games in this series, as it would require me to reference other games beside it as well. But the lore of this franchise by far is what keeps people interested in this series. Seeing how each game is connected to each other and weaving together like a cobweb is so intriguing. It's compelling to see how a story continues and seeing characters grow over time. And in Kingdom Hearts' case, seeing what may have happened years prior or going on at the same time just somewhere else. For instance, we all know about Chain of Memories. Sora, Donald, and Goofy embark into a strange castle and attempt to find King Mickey and Riku. But however, it's cool to know that later on, when playing Birth by Sleep, part of the ending of that game is seeing Aqua place a sleeping Ventus within the land of departure, and using her new abilities as a Keyblade Master and heir to this land itself, she transforms the world into the land we know as Castle Oblivion. So not only is it a callback to Chain of Memories, where Sora, Donald, and Goofy were at in that game, it's interesting to know more about what lies within Castle Oblivion and how Ventus is still asleep in there over a decade later, because due to the events of Birth by Sleep, his heart still resides within Sora. So until the two come together, it's impossible for him to actually awaken. And that can't happen because Aqua has been trapped in the realm of darkness, being constantly hunted by Heartless day in and day out for the last 10 years. So that connects the plot points even more to the recent KH3, as it's imperative to find her and Ventus in order to combat the darkness that threatens to bring more darkness to the worlds. By now, you should kind of see a pattern here. It's always exciting to see how the new game will connect with the old ones. Seeing how seemingly unimportant moments and places in previous games suddenly are a major plot point in the new game always throws us for a loop, and that in itself helps us theorize what's really going on here. And this leads into one of the biggest reasons why people love this series, and that's the community. It may seem hard to believe, but fans of media don't only exist on one platform. They live on all social media platforms. But I think one of the best things about this specific community is how much they work together to theorize trailers for upcoming games, secret endings, and story updates for the mobile games, because this honestly creates a sense of community, a sense of togetherness and brotherhood. We're all constantly testing our own knowledge of the series, analyzing cutscenes to the point where we're listening to every word that's said, how it's said, and the body language of characters while they say things, because Tetsuya Nomura, the man behind Kingdom Hearts, is known for making these things all very important things to pay attention to, which is why channels like mine are able to thrive off of constantly theorizing what may be coming up next, why something may not be exactly as they seem, something we've been led to believe was a lie, and so much more. It's a satisfying feeling connecting the pieces together. It feels like you're solving an extremely complex puzzle, so the satisfaction you get from pulling at straws and realizing you've made a picture from all of these scattered pieces is so worth it. Now I know sometimes because of this, you'll always start seeing those shallow theories that honestly don't really have much thought behind them, like Sora being the Master of Masters for instance. Even though sometimes they'll be pretty nonsensical, I think at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. It's just fans just being fans and interacting with the community. I think sometimes as gamers, we get so caught up in our communities that we forget that doing something like theorizing over lore of a franchise isn't exactly a casual thing to do. And it goes to show how many people become more hardcore than they realize when it comes to this specific series. Kingdom Hearts has this charismatic aura around it to where it's hard to not get into it when you really give it a go. It's become pretty rare to talk about Kingdom Hearts without getting into the lore surrounding it. And of course, that's thanks to the fantastic overall story in this series and the excitement we get from thinking about what possibly comes next. I know this next point may not be exclusive to just Kingdom Hearts, but I feel that the way it's done through this series specifically just makes it affect people so heavily. And that's the way this series affects the way people live their lives. Kingdom Hearts is wildly about light versus darkness, but within that struggle lies a deep message about our relationships with others and how those relationships give us a deeper connection to not only to one another, but to this world. It makes a lot of us strive to be more outgoing, stronger, and more reliable people. Despite none of these characters even being silent protagonists, in a weird way, we still somehow project ourselves onto these characters, and it makes us want to imitate the way they live their lives. Of course, I don't mean literally swinging a giant key around outside, despite me owning 3 of them, don't judge me. And I feel this is what Kingdom Hearts is all about, and why people love Kingdom Hearts so much. In a way, many of us who love this series so much honestly feels that it was meant for us to get into this series. We walked paths in our lives that led us to the point of coming into contact with this series and giving it a go. And it just can't be a coincidence that millions of people have felt this same way too. So I guess that just means it's true that destiny is never left to chance. Hey everyone, thanks for making it to the end. I had a ton of fun making this video. If you want more ramblings about video games, definitely leave me a like to show you're interested and subscribe with the bell notifications turned on. Also, sharing this video with a friend will have a Keyblade of your very own flown to your house for you to bash people's save the world with.